number 10 spot, we have the Maine hermit. So for a very long time, the people of North Pond, Maine noticed that things were going missing in their homes. Not jewelry or typical items that you would assume would go missing in a home invasion, but food such as peanut butter and apples. Since these items weren't of the highest value, the people just let it happen and didn't look too much into it. Until the invasions continuously happened close to, just 1,000 times, and that is not an exaggeration. Eventually, a man by the name of Christopher Knight was caught and was given the nickname of the Maine Hermit. Apparently, this man had been without human contact for 27 years as he was living alone in the woods. He would just steal what he needed to survive. Thankfully, he wasn't dangerous, but scary to think that he had been breaking into those people's homes so easily for years. I bet you they all installed security systems after he was caught. In our number 9 spot, we have the secret tunnels. It has been long thought to be an urban legend that beneath a lot of schools are secret, mysterious tunnels. Well, apparently, that is actually true. These tunnels are said to connect to places or even to lead to hell. Well, I'm not so sure the hell part is real, but the tunnels do exist in a lot of schools throughout the US. From people that have seen them, they have said that the tunnels are dark and cold and truly just the most spooky, probably where the idea of them leading to hell came from. They are mostly abandoned and any source of light that was once in them is completely gone. They were believed to have been used before as perhaps an easy sort of transportation between the buildings in the campus during the colder months, as they are typically in places that experience colder climates. In our number 8 spot, we have the University of Rochester swimming pool. Once upon a time, schools used to have swimming pools and it was a huge attraction. There would be swimming teams and competitions, and then over time they stopped being made with them and they became less popular. They became abandoned even in some schools like the University of Rochester, for example. They housed a swimming pool that eventually was just used for the storage of desks and chairs. The desks and chairs are piled so high that it truly is a creepy sight. Apparently, there are also red footprints along the side of the pool, and some have speculated about them as they look like blood. Was this pool discontinued because of a killing? It's possible. Am I starting another urban legend? Possibly. In our number 7 spot, we have more anesthesia, please. There used to be a rumor that some people, when going into major surgery, would get anesthesia to numb the pain and put them to sleep, but it wouldn't fully work. It was thought to be untrue and just a rumor until a few cases were revealed to have actually been real. Apparently, about 0.02% of people that have surgery fall asleep but still feel the pain as they require more than most. Yikes, that's the most scary thing ever. Truly the worst nightmare you can imagine. They are asleep, but they still feel the pain of being ripped open. Apparently it has been reported that the people that this has happened to, unfortunately, have taken their own life not too long afterward due to the PTSD from the event. Wow, truly horrific. In our number 6 spot, we have the Bloody Mary. No, not the delicious drink that is, fun fact, my favorite beverage. Canadians call them Caesars, but I have heard that the rest of the world calls them Bloody Marys. Anyways, you know that fun children's game where you look into a mirror and say Bloody Mary 3 times and a Bloody Mary is supposed to appear? Such fun. Some children's games amaze me. Well, I'm not about to say that this game is real and to run to your mirrors right now to try it. I wish. Actually, no, I don't wish. But actually, this game is based on a real person. You're supposed to see the ghost of Mary, the first Queen of England from the 1500s. Apparently, she was quite violent, and that is where the name Bloody Mary came from, as she is said to haunt and kill the person who summons her in the mirror. I was too much of a scaredy cat to play this game as a kid. In our number 5 spot, we have the Body Farms. Yeah, the name of this one totally creeps me out, and the fact that this actually exists is horrifying. I mean, the main purpose of these body farms, where dead bodies are lined up for observing, is so that scientists can study them. Apparently such farms have dozens upon dozens of decomposing dead bodies. Apparently what we can learn from these bodies can help police solve unsolved cases. A lot of unidentified bodies are donated to these farms, as well as people donate them too. I mean, I kinda like the idea of helping with scientific research once I'm gone, but then again, I also like the idea of being put in a cozy bed with all my fave things for eternity too. So, a decision for later, Mel. In our number 4 spot, we have real Halloween props. Do you remember being a kid and walking up to a house to go trick-or-treating on Halloween and looking at the decorations and thinking, what if one of these decorations were real? And then 1 second later, the man sitting on the porch that you thought was a prop scarecrow turned out to be real by jumping in your face and growling at you? Yep, that happened to me, another true story. Apparently there have actually been quite a few cases near Halloween where people have thought real-life horrific things have been props. Like in the case of a woman who took her own life and hung from a tree, and for almost a week after Halloween, people hadn't noticed that she wasn't a prop. Well, my inner child is terrified thinking of the amount of times I may have actually stumbled across real things like this. Hopefully I never did. In our number 3 spot, we have the garbage legend. Did you ever get told to not hide in the garbage can because you might be accidentally thrown out with the trash? Well, that was not just some old story that parents told their kids to practice safe play. No, this story actually stemmed from truth. Apparently a boy was hiding in a duffel bag while playing hide and seek, and his mom accidentally threw it out with the trash, and the garbage man even put him in the back of the trunk, but thankfully the boy was discovered before the trash was crushed up. Apparently there are some other stories where people weren't as lucky. That is the most tragic thing. I remember hearing about a mom that turned the washer on when her young one was hiding in it, and that shook me up, but this is honestly just as horrible. In our number 2 spot, we have buried alive. Ever heard that phrase, being buried alive? Yeah, well, some thought it to be an urban legend, just a phrase. But the origin of where that phrase came from actually comes from truth. Apparently back in the day there was unfortunately quite a few cases where people were buried alive. Yep, so much so that it became common practice to put a bell in the grave so that the person could ring it if they were actually buried alive. Of course, we are better equipped with tools and are able to know these days, and that's not common anymore. But still quite chilling to think that it was once an issue and the phrase came from truth. In our number 1 spot, we have Charlie No Face. There is an old urban legend told about a man named Charlie with no face. Depending on who told the story, Charlie No Face could be a monster, ghost, or someone who had an accident and no longer had a face, but apparently he would walk the streets of Big Beaver, Pennsylvania in the night. People would try to spot him and would drive the streets at night to see him. Well, apparently the story is actually true. No, he wasn't a monster or a ghost, but a man named Raymond Robinson, and was a normal guy that unfortunately had an accident and it disfigured his face. From embarrassment, he would only walk the streets at night so people didn't see him. My bro actually had a horrible accident not too long ago, and not gonna lie, reading about the story had me very emotional. Thankfully it wasn't as bad as this guy and he's alive and recovering, but it certainly gives you perspective as to what's important in life.
At number 10, we have The Faceless Man. This one was written by a young mother whose son would talk about a creepy man he would always see in his grandparents' bedroom. That sounds completely safe and normal, just a guy that nobody knows about hanging around in a bedroom. It sounds like he has the best intentions. Well, the little boy said even though the man was creepy, he would talk to him and he seemed like a nice guy, but he made the boy feel uncomfortable. Now the mom knew that this couldn't be a real person, but the more and more that the little boy talked about it, the more the mother's concern grew. It seemed that every time he went to visit his grandparents, he would have an encounter with this creepy man. Eventually, the mom asked what he looked like, and the little boy said, "Oh, he doesn't have a face." That will make it easy to sleep at night. A faceless demon that is making pals with your toddler. One of the toughest parts about being a parent is controlling the people your kids are exposed to, especially when they come from an alternate demonic universe. At number 9, we have Michael. So one of the best places to make friends is on vacation. You run into some other people who are on vacation, everyone feels loose and wild, you've got no responsibilities, maybe you all have too much to drink and everyone keeps a secret. Great times and never-ending memories. Well, sometimes you meet a bunch of like-minded people ready to make mistakes, and sometimes you're a little girl and you meet an invisible boy on the beach named Michael. The Reddit user I'm Not a Crazy Person wrote a story about a boy that no one could see that she met while she was on a trip with her parents in Florida. They were all on the beach and she spent the day playing with someone named Michael. When it was time to leave, she asked if Michael could come home with them. Her mom thought it was all just in her little girl's head, so she said yes. For years she said she could play with Michael and remember it all so vividly. It was until one day that Michael said he found his family and he was going home. Was this all in the little girl's head, or was there a ghost freeloading off them for years? At number 8, we have the captain. This story comes from a child psychiatrist. Some parents brought in their daughter because she was terrified by a being in her room who she called the captain. She described the captain as a tall man with a beard, and the captain would tell the little girl that when she grew up, her job would be killing. This of course scared the hell out of the little girl because she didn't want to kill anyone, and probably because she thought she would have more options in the future. The little girl would cry and tell the captain she doesn't want to kill, but he would just say, "You'll get used to it." Jeez. At number 7, we have Grateful. A young girl by the name of Ruby was interviewed for a magazine. The article was about imaginary friends. Ruby described her imaginary friend as a 14-year-old girl named Grateful who was pregnant with 2 kids and had yellow eyelashes which let her see in the dark. It seemed like a fun character until the article was published, and then an actress by the name of Natalie Morales contacted the girl's mother through Twitter, giving her details on why this wasn't an imaginary friend but a ghost of a pregnant teen who was murdered. Ooh. At number 6, we have Girl in the Closet. Next we got what is for sure the creepiest one on the list so far. This story comes from a mom whose daughter would talk about a girl named Kelly who lived in her closet. Kelly would do pretty normal stuff. They would play together, Kelly would sometimes hang on a rocking chair, which is a huge ghost red flag, just saying. It was all nice and normal until one day the mom was watching the Amityville Horror, starring Canadian treasure Ryan Reynolds, and her daughter walked into the room. It was during a scene where there was a girl on the screen with black pits for eyes and rotting skin. Her daughter then says that looks like Kelly, which her mom responds with, "Who's Kelly?" And her daughter replies, "Oh, Kelly's the girl who's living in my closet." I bet her mom had a great sleep that night. At number 5, we have a family spirit. We've got another one that we snagged right off of Reddit. Reddit is such a wonderful place. You can get everything you want. You can find illegal streaming websites, buy or sell used underwear, and even find terrifying stories about kids with demonic imaginary friends. This story was written by rcoley32. She said her daughter told her this story about a tall man who would visit her at night. This tall man would do the sign of the cross on her forehead. If it wasn't bad enough that ghosts are coming into your home, now they're touching you, then the creepy factor got turned all the way up to 11 when her and her daughter were going through some family photos. They came across a picture of R. Crowley's late grandfather, and the little girl said that is the man that has been visiting her at night. This is where it gets good. The little girl had never met her great grandfather before, and this was the first time she'd ever seen a picture of him. And when the dude was still alive, he would do the sign of the cross on all his kids' foreheads before they went to sleep. So I guess it's a little better knowing that the ghost who's coming into your house is a family member, but I don't really know. I don't know where everyone's lines are on this. At number 4, we have a family man. This one might be a real imaginary friend or demonic ghost murderer. The story comes from a sister of a little boy named Jordan, and Jordan had an imaginary friend named Roger. Roger was a family man with 9 kids, and Jordan and Roger got on fabulously, until one day when the little boy announced that Roger has gone and killed his whole family. Well, that's a very abrupt ending to a friendship. Well, this might have just all been the kid's head who didn't really understand the weight of death and murdering your 9 children. Or was it the ghost of a crazed man who was left behind from the murder-suicide he committed? Either way, if I have kids, I'm gonna get a tablet into their hands as fast as possible. There is no way in hell there's a ghost out there that is more entertaining than the whole internet. I don't care if you killed 10 kids. You're not beating Netflix or Russian dashcam videos. No, my kid's not gonna talk to you. Sticking on the tablet. At number 3, we have Jenny. Okay, so this one literally gave me goosebumps. This story is about a single mom and her daughter who have just moved into a new home. Not long after they settled in, the little girl started playing with an imaginary friend named Jenny. The kid's in a new place with just her and her mom, so it seemed pretty normal. One day, the unseen friend named Jenny asked the little girl if she could ask her mom if the cat could play in the basement. Her mom said yes. Why wouldn't she? This seems like a very simple request. Then the cat went missing. They couldn't find the little kitty anywhere. A couple days after the cat went missing, the little girl told her mom that Jenny wanted to play with her in the basement. The mom was really freaked out and of course said no. The next day, the little girl woke up with scratches all over her body. What the hell was going on? They did some research into what was going on in this home, and Jenny was a girl who went missing in the basement a long time ago and no one ever found her. This was spooky as hell, so the two quickly moved out, and I'm assuming they put the house on the market for a low price. At number 2, we have the Bunny Man. Taking care of kids can be so much fun, or you could be taking care of kids that think there's a demon that looks like the Easter Bunny living in their home. This story comes from a girl who says when she was 16 she would babysit 2 twins who were terrified by a thing they called the Bunny Man. On more than one occasion, one of the twins would start screaming, claiming that the Bunny Man was in the room with him. Sometimes the other twin could sense that his brother was in trouble and tell the babysitter to go help. Now this might have just been a prank to scare the crap out of a 16-year-old who's just trying to make a little bit of money, but she said that when they claimed they would see him, they would be terrified. Sometimes they would even be crying. So what do you think this is? Great actors ready to go into their Oscar role? Or is this the real life Donnie Darko? At number 1, we have Mr. Man. Okay, and last on our list is the story of Mr. Man. You may have heard of this one. It was a pretty famous story on Reddit. It comes from a guy who said when he was 5 years old he would be visited by a figure a few times a week. This would always happen when he would go to bed. He would see a tall man dressed in all black. He was bald and had a frowning face. He was probably frowning because he found out that he has to be bald in his entire afterlife. You stay bald when you're dead? That's a huge bummer. This figure would never hurt him, but it would just kind of float above his bed like a really creepy roommate. Then one day it just vanished and never came back. It wasn't until years later, when he was all grown up, that Mr. Man made his return. He saw the shadowy figure looking at him through a doorway, and then it used its ghostly powers to swing the door shut.
Coming in at number 10, we have Gollum. Gollum was spotted in the valleys of Hirao in North Beijing near the Great Wall of China. I may not have said that right, but Gollum was there. I kinda think the Great Wall is pretty far from Middle Earth, but I could be wrong. So a Chinese tourist snapped Gollum hanging out as they were hiking and went off trail for a pee. I know that feeling, you don't want to see anything creepy. He said, "I walked far away to have a pee and suddenly I saw a monster. I took a few pictures of it, but I'm now terrified." They shared the image on the internet and it quickly went viral, with a host of people suggesting that he had found Gollum. Perhaps the monster is crouched over looking for his precious in the shrubbery. The mystery was however solved when an actor claimed that the image was actually of him shooting a sci-fi movie. He was in costume. Although some people say that the actor coming forward is all a big part of a wider Chinese government cover-up. Who knows? Coming in at number 9, we have Cthulhu. Cthulhu, for those of you who aren't au fait with Lovecraft's greatest monster, is a mythical creature of epic proportions said to be part dragon, part octopus, and part squid. All of the good parts. Looking at it is said to send a human insane, which is, you know, cool. Classic monster. Cthulhu was spotted over the ocean in Vancouver in 2007. There it is, just emerging from some horrifying looking clouds. Cthulhu, what you do. This wasn't the only sighting either. The elder god was also spotted over a highway amid a tornado in the United States, although Snopes had something to say about that. If Cthulhu is lurking in the clouds, what else could be out there? Maybe it's dementors at number 8. Dementors are soul suckers from the Harry Potter series. When they're around, you'll know it because you'll feel cold and utterly joyless. What do they look like? Hooded cloak figures that seem to impossibly float above the ground. I never want to come face to face with the Dementor. Now if this isn't a real life Dementor, then what on earth is it? This terrifying and very odd cloud formation appeared over a mall in the city of Kitwe in Zambia. The scary vapor ghoul looked to be about 100 meters long and was watching over a shopping center in the city for half an hour. Eyewitnesses said that some started worshipping the cloud formation thinking it was a manifestation of God, while others ran away. I, however, would straight up produce my Patronus and blast that soulsucker bay away. My Patronus is a dapple grey mare, by the way. What's yours? Keeping it Harry Potter related at number 7, we have Dobby the house elf. He lives! Dobby is a free elf! Say it with me now. So I was surprised to see Dobby trending on Twitter over the weekend, and even more surprised to see the reason why. Dobby was spotted on a security camera positioned in someone's driveway. Now the whole thing kicked off on Twitter when J-Bay tweeted this footage with the caption, "A lady posted this and said she saw something on her home camera this morning. What y'all think it is?" The internet was quick to respond with exactly what they thought it was, the late great house elf. The video was posted just 4 days before the recording of this video, and it's already racked up 30 million views. Go get it, Dobby. Okay, next up, I thought that Momo was fiction, but it turns out maybe it's not. At number 6, we have Momo. I had no idea where the horrifying Momo picture associated with the online self-harm challenge came from. Momo quickly became an internet urban legend, and honestly, I thought that her scary face came from Photoshop, but no, actually, she's real. Kind of. She was the work of a Japanese artist and sculptor, Kazuki Aiso, who created the art piece called Motherbird back in 2016. The piece was for an alternative art gallery and has since rotted and been thrown away by the artist. Yes, rotted. Speaking to The Sun about his art was memeified, the artist said, "I have mixed feelings about the people who have done this. On the one hand, they have caused me nothing but trouble, but on the other hand, as an artist, I have a little sense of appreciation that my art piece has been seen across the world." So there you go, guys. Momo lives. Or at least she did until she went rotten and had to be thrown out. Gross. Okay, taking it in a much happier direction at number 5, we have Santa Claus. Could it be? Is it he? Santa is one of the more mysterious folks out there, only appearing between the 24th to 25th of December just to give people presents. Why though? What is the meaning of all of this? In Noble County, Indiana, a driver of a police car caught Santa and his reindeer flying overhead on his dash cam. Obviously, it was immediately shared on social media. I mean, if I'd just snapped Santa on his sleigh, I'd be straight on Instagram, and then maybe Twitter, and then maybe Facebook. I don't have Snapchat. Maybe I should get it. The LaGrange County Sheriff's Department shared the image on Facebook with the caption, "Photo taken from the dashcam of a Noble County patrol car in the southern part of Noble County, heading northbound a short time ago. Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good night." The image was shared 8,500 times, but I do smell a bit of a rat. Was it Santa, or was it just a cheeky way of wishing everyone Merry Christmas? Either way, hooray for Santa! But boo for El Chupacabra at number 4. Is it a wild dog, or is it the mythical Chupacabra? A Chupacabra is a legendary creature in folklore. It's kind of like a blood-sucking animal vampire that we're gonna call a demon. Why not? Demon. Demon! The legend of El Chupacabra is most popular in Puerto Rico, northern Mexico, and the southern states of the USA, especially Texas. If you'd seen our Texas urban legend video, we actually talk about a sighting of a Chupacabra. So the creature was spotted on a police dash cam, and the officer involved in the incident was totally vexed. The footage was taken in 2008 and has caused debate ever since. The video description reads, "A police dashboard camera catches what some might think may be the proof that the legendary Chupacabra lives and roams in the fields of the Lone Star State." The creature was seen running down a old rural Texas road. To me, this actually kind of looks like a wild dog rather than a Chupacabra, but people are refusing to budge on the whole legendary creature thing. They believe. They believe! Coming in at number 3, we have Loki. That time the Norse god Loki took the bus, right? What if Loki was one of us? Just a stranger on the bus, trying to make his way home. Oh, Loki. I mean, obviously Loki's riding the bus, because who wants to, fly or whatever? Yet here he is. There he is. I found this picture hidden in the inner belly, the deep depths of the internet, and I decided it definitely needed an airing. It reads, "I am Loki of Asgard, and I am burdened with glorious purpose." Aren't you just, mate? The reflection in the bus window is pretty perfect. Loki! Now I really need to spot Thor in real life. Ooh, Thor. Maybe I could date Thor. Coming in at number 2, we have Batman Batman. Officers in Maryland, USA pulled over a black Lamborghini with no tags on Route 29 in 2012. The footage ended up on news publication The Telegraph's YouTube page. Why? Well, as we watch from the perspective of the dashcam, we see that the guy who gets out of the car is dressed as freaking Batman. Have a watch. The comments of this video are pretty golden. I heartily agree with JMAATV, who wrote, "Honestly, if I had enough money to buy a Lamborghini, I'd just buy a Batman costume and drive around too." Like, right? There actually is a bit of a sad story here though. It seems that the man behind the costume was a man named Lenny B. Robinson. He was a guy who was indeed rich enough to buy a Lambo, so he also bought a Batman costume and drove around in it, living the dream. He used to also go to children's hospitals to make the kids feel better too, and by all accounts he was a great guy. Sadly, he died in 2015. Now this was just 3 years after the footage was captured. His Batmobile broke down on the interstate and he was struck by another passing vehicle. His younger brother Scott spoke to the Washington Post and said he touched a lot of lives and made a lot of kids smile. Rest in peace, Batman. Rest in peace indeed. Coming into number 1, we have Slenderman. Oh, I thought we were done with you. Is it true? Maybe this is Slenderman. Slenderman has been spotted an uncomfortable number of times. In June 2015, he was spotted on a rooftop in Mexico. Look! Oh, but warning, he's nude. What an exhibitionist. What do you think? Was that him? Also in 2015, worldwide news publication The Mirror published an article claiming to have genuine photographs of Slenderman on the loose in the woods in Staffordshire in England. He gets around though. In 2014, 2 teens were found walking along a highway, with a third girl found stabbed and bleeding out in a nearby woodland. Morgan Gazer and Anissa Weir said that they had seen him in the woodlands near Waukesha in Wisconsin, USA. Is that how you pronounce that, guys? Let me know. They claimed Slenderman had told them that if they didn't stab their friend, then he wouldn't let them live with him, and worse still, as they'd seen him, he would kill their families in 3 seconds. Honestly, how utterly devastating. I can't believe this was enough to make them stab their friend. But what did they see?
At number 10, we have Monster in the House. So one house had beings that came along with it. Each member of a family that lived there for under a year had their own haunting experience, so it was a lot of experiences in a row. The first to have an experience was the daughter, who was 3 at the time. She would wake up in the middle of the night absolutely terrified, scared of the monster in her room. It was brushed off by her parents as just something that she saw, and it did eventually stop. But after it had stopped, her dad started waking up in the middle of the night himself. He had this feeling that something was staring at him. In the corner of the room, he saw a shadowy black and gray apparition that gave him the chills. This kept happening a few times a week for months. His fiancée even said that she saw a faceless child looking at her beside the bed, and they moved out after the frequency of all these spottings got even worse. Once they moved out, they slept normally ever since. At number 9, we have screaming. A Redditor named Blackwater Project talks about an experience their daughter had. From the age of 3 to the age of 8, their daughter talked about people with no faces and figures of shadows. The daughter would wake them up in the middle of the night and say there was a man or figure standing in their closet. One of the most frightening stories was when their daughter asked if they heard the screams. She was asking if they heard the screams of a figure that stood in her doorway and screamed at her, and then flew to her parents' room and screamed at them. She sobbed uncontrollably to her parents because she didn't understand why they didn't wake up from the screams. The parent who posted this says the encounters did stop, and now their kid is 11. But now their daughter just refuses to talk about her past experiences. Number 8. Dozens. So Pinion_gear on Reddit was just napping before they had their own encounter. They had just had some teeth pulled and were on bed rest. When they slowly woke up, they heard indistinct whispering. They described it as if some people were talking to each other in the next room, but they couldn't make out what they were saying. But what was making the noise wasn't in the next room. They were all right there. So the Redditor opened their eyes to see dozens of tall, thin, shadowy figures in the room. The type that looked humanoid, but also the type that you couldn't focus on even if you looked directly at them. These shadowy figures moved about the room, not really minding the sleepy person in the room with them. It personally seems to me like the person who got their teeth pulled stumbled upon a ghost party, or the ghost party stumbled upon them, because I just wonder if spirits target people whose stories are less likely to be believed. Because just stay with me here. If I was a spirit trying to keep the spirit world low-key, I would only come to this plane of existence when I could get away with it. And so, throwing a cocktail party in a room with a guy taking a nap just seems hilarious, cause just like, don't mind Dave, he's the decor. I've decided on a 21st century man with less teeth as the piece for our little cocktail party. I'm just guessing that's what the spirits are saying. Just imagine. She's like, hello. We're all the ghosts, but look, it's a man. He doesn't even see us. Dave. He has no teeth. Great. Number 7, a dream message. So another person shared their own story anonymously with the Occult Museum. They said they were having a vivid dream where someone was whispering something in their ear. And as with many dreams, they don't remember the exacts, but they were whispering secrets. And then when they woke up from the dream, they looked across the room and saw it. A shadow darker than the darkness of the room that turned and looked at them. They called out to it in confusion and it ran straight into a wall. When it reached the wall, it was like a splash of darkness dissipating into smoke. Now they say they absolutely believe it was what was whispering in their ear before they woke up, and they caught it before it left. I wonder if they can like reach into your minds and like see what's going on. It's like, oh, you're in a dream? You're having a good time? Let me just whisper. Rude. But let's go on to number 6, more than one type. So a Reddit user named Dim saw 2 different shadowy figures at 2 different times. One was more benign and the other was malicious. So when Dim was a kid, the demonic one, the malicious one, haunted their bedroom. It looked like thick smoke and left a bad stench, they said. It also left all the signs of a haunting. Cold air, a sense of fright, religious objects falling down, scratches on the ceiling, and even a face appeared. So the non-hostile ghost was different. It was more translucent, more like a shadow, and they saw it looming over their mother as she slept. Once it noticed them, it divided itself into 3 different beings and ran straight through them one at a time. So not all of these shadow people are scary, but many are. I don't want them to mess with me, I'm sorry. Number 5, adopting a disguise. One person was staying at their mom's house on a hometown visit and were lying in bed about to go to sleep. That's when they felt and heard a presence in their room. They thought it was their brother just trying to get something, so they turned to look at him, but it wasn't him. It was a tall, shadowy figure darker than the shadows of the room. As they kept asking what the figure wanted, it moved closer and closer to them. They felt a fear and weight on them from the looming presence, so they shouted at it to leave, but it didn't go until they used their phone light to light up the room. After that, they prayed over a rosary and eagle feather until they fell asleep. They say it returns as a boy of maybe 7 or 8 with sad eyes that peeks around corners at them, but they say this visual of a boy is all a facade, hiding the darker shadow person. Using a nicer figure to try to lead to some trust, but it's really hiding something much, much more sinister. Let's move on to number 4, trespassing. So when a woman named Courtney was about 10 or 11, she explored an abandoned house. It was daytime and she was exploring a couple of the rooms, but there wasn't really much there to see. But when she turned into a hallway, at the other end of the hallway was a shadow person. It was looking at her, but it had no eyes. They kind of stared at each other for some time and she thought it wasn't real, just a figment of her imagination. But then it slowly started walking towards her. She turned to leave, and from the corner of her eye, it seemed like the being had traveled 7 meters in a split second. She kept running out of the house and looked back to see if it had followed, but the shadow person had stopped at the door. She said it was as if it was unable to leave the house, and then it turned back around and returned to where it was before. With all that, I think it was just saying, what are you doing in my house? But couldn't really communicate because it was a shadow person, and then chased him out. Defend your territory, man, you know? At number 3, caught on camera. At the St. Augustine Lighthouse, a camera captured a shadowy figure. At first, the shadow just looks like someone casting a shadow off camera, but if that was the case, the shadow would have had a different depth of field when it passed the room on the left. In addition, the window in the other room casts a brighter light than this side, and you can see the light coming through the shadow. Plus, the shadow just doesn't go across the whole screen or video. It stops, enters the room, and you can see the wall. It's different. So people around the comments of the video argued whether or not it's real or edited in post-production, which is possible really, so please let me know what you think about it. Number 2, red eyes. K. Willstonia on Reddit said he had seen his fair share of shadow people. He also disclaims that he has had sleep paralysis on and off, so this could be an explanation for one of his creepy encounters. So one day he slept in until around 9 a.m, which isn't really sleeping in for me, but anyways, his room was pretty well lit when this happened. He woke up and his computer screen was turned towards the bed and the monitor was off. But then on the screen a man appeared and said, don't look into his eyes. So then, once he heard that, he noticed a huge hulking shadow appear out of his open closet door. He says it was about 6 feet tall with a huge torso and long arms with pointed fingers at the ends. The shadow being itself was transparent except for the eyes that were red and opaque. With the figure staring at him, he couldn't move and eventually just shut his eyes, waking up hours later. He felt lethargic afterwards, but blamed it on sleeping in too much. But it could have been the shadow figure. Just saying. But lastly, let's move on to number 1, the being on the road. So this last one comes from ItchyZSoul7 on Reddit. He was riding his bike home from work through a residential neighborhood. While riding, he saw a form standing in the middle of the road. It kept backing up as he moved forward until he passed a stoplight, and at that point it stopped in the middle of the road right in his path. Then, he was able to see it. Its body was made of shadows, but it had a full form. It had deep scarlet eyes, and it raised its head as he kept approaching and opened its mouth, and he could see rows and rows of jagged teeth, but there were no other identifying features. He was able to get away after he had a bit of a fall and then got back up, but now the figure haunts him. He sees it once or twice a week and it follows him around to different cities to work, but no one else sees it. He's currently fielding answers to see if he can figure out what exactly this is, so if you want to check it out, it'll be linked in our sources below.